Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3-Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I am Will Terry. And all three of us are professional illustrators. We've all worked for all the major publishers in the business. Together, we published somewhere around 75 children's books, and we've all taught illustration at university art schools.
That's right. Each week we come at you guys with different listener questions or fantastic illustrator interviews. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we argue, but each time you learn something brand spanking new.
And sometimes we rant.
Well, we're going to rant. That's what we sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes we contradict ourselves.
Do we? I don't think so.
According to the YouTube comments from the last episode.
Well, that was part of my rant, actually.
Okay, let's hear it.
So each of us has a rant that we have decided to do. I don't know what Jake's or Will's rants are going to be. I have two of them, actually. But my first rant is stop wanting everything to be. I think a lot of people, when they hear things online, want to be outraged. They want to be mad quickly, too. I mean, and sort of aggressively. And it's just kind of weird.
It's part of the culture now.
Yeah. And the problem is people want answers to be black and white. And one of the big things that us three do agree on almost every time is that most issues have a certain level of gray. There's pros and there's cons. And so it's funny because some people in this past comment section, some people said, it's so obvious you're pro AI, you losers. And then, because there's always this sort of mean-spirited kind of feeling behind some of these texts. And then there's other ones that saying it's clear that you hate AI. And the truth is, we're exactly in the middle.
I don't know if we're exactly in the middle.
Well, but not in the middle. But I'm just saying there are pros and cons, and because we discuss things as pros and cons, we don't just say, oh, all AI is bad or all AI is good. Yeah. There's benefits to different things. Like, we were talking a couple weeks ago about the Kara platform. Mm-hmm. People think we hate the Kara platform. I don't hate the Kara platform. I mean, there was just pros and cons to it. I was trying to evaluate, well, do I even need to go here? It doesn't mean I hate Kara and no one should go there.
Right. But it's kind of like you hear him say something like, you say, oh, I'm not going to eat right now. I'm going to eat later. Oh, so you don't like eating? I mean, like, really, exactly that's right. I mean, come on, guys.
You got against eating.
There's just and so that's my first rant is that when you hear something, don't just assume a black and white, stance from the person you're listening to. I mean, it's just that people get so mad so quick at us. So that's my first rant, and then I have one little additional tack on rant, and this has to do with the internet age. And the education age, I guess, of YouTube and stuff like that. And that is stop wanting everything for free. Some of the funniest comments we've seen is, boy, you guys are money grubbers. Oh, you guys are so inauthentic. You're just in it for a quick buck. We have done over 200 podcasts where we lose money every episode. Not only are we doing it for free, but we lose money.
It costs a lot of money to have it produced.
It costs we have like 8 people on staff just to make these podcasts. I know our production quality doesn't seem like it, but we do. And it all costs a ton of money. I mean, and then you go to sell a class and they're like, oh, you trying to make a buck.
Well, here's the funny thing is like, we mention SVSLearn.com. We don't have a way of tracking whether this podcast is actually bringing us any sales or not.
Because
we assume it is. We hope it is.
If we were smarter, we'd be able to track everything.
Right. So we don't give out like codes like, oh, use this code. We should probably do that, but we don't. Yeah. So we do the podcast because we love talking about illustration and all the issues that face illustrators, the business side. We've been doing it for long enough that we feel like we have something to offer.
Yeah.
But we certainly,
but it's definitely not about the money. And it's just funny that A, we get accused of that sometimes, but B, my rant is really about everybody wanting everything for free. And I do understand that because a lot of stuff is available for free. I mean, you can almost learn anything you want to on YouTube. That's the pro behind YouTube. But the problem is to learn something substantial and in a usable way, and in a more broad way, you need some kind of program, and people can't give that away for free. I'm not just talking about us. I'm talking about, like, I mentioned that I'm going to Chicago on the last podcast. I don't expect him to do that workshop for free. I'm going to spend 3 days with this guy. Why would he do that for free? And so it's just, I mean, you get little sample size things for free on YouTube. That's what you learn how to do. How do you paint a tree? Go to YouTube. They'll show you exactly how to paint a tree or draw an eyeball. But if you want an education on how to do something, like a real education, you're going to have to spend some money, and don't be mad at the people who are trying to help you get there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Also,
can I give you my rant?
Well, yeah,
go ahead, Jake.
I was just going to piggyback off of that and say, tools are, you shouldn't expect a plumber to be fully like decked out with all the tools for free, right? You shouldn't go into dentistry and expect to not have to pay for a space and the tools and the all the little dental things and the education to get in there, right? But I think for, like Lee's saying, a lot of times artists, not everybody, but I do run into people who are just upset that art supplies cost so much, education costs so much, having a space to promote yourself online. My email list costs so much. My advertising costs so much, and I don't think artists are special. Like if there's something of value and somebody's willing to offer it, then should it not be worth something?
I mean, my take on that is you have access to more artists in terms of an education than you've ever had in your life. I would have been stoked to have the number of people that, like, when I went to school, the people that you studied with were the people employed by the school. You had 4 choices of which teacher to take for your painting class. Right. Now you can study with, I'm going to give a shout out to Schoolism, our bros over there. And I mean, the fact that you could study with Nathan Fowkes anytime you want to is amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
I think also, and then we'll get to your rant too, but I think the main problem now is there has been sort of this leveling of the playing field of access to knowledge, right? We live in this information age where people can learn how to do anything they want. They have access to people, they have access to mentors. And so what that has happened, I guess what's that made is much more competition. So now, instead of competing against, 10 people for a particular job, you're competing against 1,000 people for a particular job. And so it just makes it harder to do, and I think the problem with one of the big problems with AI is now you're competing against companies who want to pay a machine to do half the work. Right. And that is frustrating. I totally understand the frustration. I get frustrated. Okay. What's your rant, Will?
So I think that people think that I know that a lot of people think that I'm pro AI because I've made some posts on Facebook. We've talked about it on the podcast. And my main message is that, like, I think in my perfect world, I would go back, if I could, to the 1980s and be a children's book illustrator then. I feel like in the 80s it was so rich and fertile ground to just make children's books, right? And to make a good living at it. But I think that that's a real mistake to think like that, and I think it's really naive, because the benefits that, like if you went back into the 1980s, think of all the technology that you enjoy and use every day that you wouldn't have. Right. I mean, like, we're so used to getting information right at our fingertips. Well, that's gone because there's no internet, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so like like, I think when we think about going back or having a different time, we're thinking about it as we also get to like basically have our life the same as it is now and take all the stuff with us. But we don't. Like, things really sucked in the 80s in a lot of ways. And prior to that, even some people say they want to live 100 years ago. Really? Before penicillin or before, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's like a lot of really cool innovations. So my thing is, while you're complaining and moaning about AI and about Instagram and about Adobe and about all the things that are happening right now, there are people out there that are crushing it. And they don't care about you. They're not even thinking about you. They're not reading your Facebook. They're not reading your Twitter. They're not reading your X. They're not reading any of that. Why? Because they're busy producing, and they're making stuff and they're taking it to market, and they're trying to make, and some of them are being really successful, innovating and making things that people want and things that people are buying. And like Lee and I are both using this marketing company called LaunchBoom to launch our next Kickstarters. Mm-hmm. And if you ever want to see people that are crushing it, just go to their website, LaunchBoom, and look at their portfolio of clients that they've helped take into 6-figure Kickstarters. Some past 6 figures, some into the 7 figures, right? Mm-hmm. Those people don't care about you, and they don't care about your complaints, and they don't care about. The thing is, I don't think you can stop these big, huge corporations. I just don't. That doesn't mean I like them. That doesn't mean I like what they're doing. It just means I think it's a waste of your life energy. We all have a certain amount of energy we can devote. And if you devote it to complaining and being negative, well, I don't want to be around you. And a lot of people don't, right? Like you're not adding anything. There's a conversation going on aside from the whole corporation stealing your art thing. And it's a conversation of what I'm going to make and take to the market next and make a bunch of money and feed my family and go on vacation with. That's the conversation I'm having with other people.
Yeah. So it's like, I've got 3 hours today to devote to my creative energy. So do I go online and kind of tear down Adobe for their terms and conditions, and post about how, just warn everybody, hey, don't sign up for Adobe products anymore. Do I do that? Do I spend my time on that post? Or do I spend time, I don't know, writing every single congressperson that I can saying we need legislation right now to stop AI, right. or not to stop AI, but to have, stringent or specific ramifications for the abuse of it, laws around it so that we can control it. Do I spend my time doing that? Or do I go spend my time working on this graphic novel idea that I've sort of left in a drawer for the past year? And now I start like chipping away at it and getting good at character design and getting good at panel design. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that's the question for you, what you feel like is the best use of your time. And I kind of agree with Will. Like I at this point, I'm way more interested in making the projects that I have in my head that are not going to happen if I don't do them than I am at trying to complaining or visibly like showing online how upset I am about how things are going, because I truly am upset. Like the Adobe thing shook me a little bit there, right? I agree. I want to make stuff, and I think like the more people who sit down and make things, they're not only going to be happier, but we're going to be in a better place culturally if people just make the things, regardless of what other people are doing.
It reminds me of my sister when we were young and we're at the beach and she got knocked down by a wave and she starts crying and getting angry and she gets knocked down by the second one while she's angry and crying. Right? Now she's pissed off and she's just like, I hate it, as another wave crashes over top of her again. These corporations are the waves. They're coming. You ain't going to stop it. Yeah. And people might say, well, Will's just given up. He doesn't believe that we can stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, I don't. And,
Well,
and I've seen it before.
I mean, legislation can change it. I mean, it depends on how it lands. And that's why I'm not overly critical of Adobe yet, or overly critical of Instagram yet, because we don't know where this shoe is landing. This is all sort of new stuff, and mistakes will be made and hopefully rectified. So we just don't know where. I don't think, I agree with Will. You're not going to stop the companies, but I also think that they can't just be willing to, I mean, I don't mind people speaking up. It just shouldn't be your whole existence. And us saying, hey, just focus on your work does not mean we're pro giant corporation. Cause that's the other takeaway is like, oh, you guys just don't care.
Let me give an example. I just picked up this comic. It's called Grizz Grobus, and it's by Simon Roy. And he's one of my favorite sort of indie creators. This was published by Image Comics, and I watched him writing and drawing this and distributing it online as a web comic first. Now it's a fully printed book. It was a Kickstarter as well. You could get a really nice hardback version of it. And I got this like nicely printed soft cover book from my local comic shop last week. And, you know, I read the first half online. I'm reading the last half of this in the book now. Mm-hmm. I am so grateful for this little book that it exists. It's weird. It is such a niche sort of subject matter. It takes place on another planet that was terraformed by humans many years ago. And the people on this planet have forgotten who originally settled the planet, and they're sort of living this nomadic lifestyle, with like scrapes of technology that they don't fully understand. This is very much right up my alley. I'm so grateful that Simon Roy decided not to get like so frustrated that he couldn't do anything because of AI and so frustrated and spent so much of his time like trying to fight AI that he didn't make this. I'm grateful that he just put his head down, made an amazing book, and put it out into the world. And that's what gets me excited. That's what I think we as artists have to do, is keep creating. You can still go fight the fights and do the things, but don't neglect your work. Don't forget to make the things.
Yeah, you can sign the petitions. Sign the petitions, make comments.
Yeah, join the new platform.
Don't spend all your energy on it, because here's the thing. Let's say there's 50,000 artists that sign a petition, or 100,000. I can guarantee you there's 3 times as many people who are going to call themselves artists who want AI to succeed. Mm-hmm. They're my distant relative who made a book cover using what's the Midjourney, right? And wanted to post it in my Facebook group for children's books. And I had to message her privately and say, if I allow you to post this, your Midjourney, she's calling herself an artist, right? Mm-hmm. If I allow you to post this, I'll get destroyed by everybody going, why are you allowing this person in here? But like, so just know that's
that there's on the ground dealing with it. Like that's an actual practical use of or a situation where you would have to deal with it. Like one of it is let's deal with it, at a legislative level. Let's deal with that at a political level. But the other one is, here's someone just made a book that has AI images all over it. I'm not buying it.
Right.
And I'm going to tell everybody else they shouldn't buy it.
Right. The thing that was interesting about her is when I told her the reason, because she couldn't understand. She's like, I don't understand. Why can't I'm an author and I'm now an illustrator. And I made a book and I don't understand. And I explained it to her this way. I'm like, hey, for the rest of us that went through a traditional route of school illustration, some people paid, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, over $100,000 for their education to be able to do what you did in a few minutes. Mm-hmm. Right. And I don't know, how would you feel? And she's like, she still didn't get it. Right. Okay.
Really?
So like those people exist. And guess what? There's going to be probably many more of them because it's a new technology. And when people find out, they can just type in some words and make an illustration. Guess what? When it comes to voting about these laws in Congress or wherever we send our petitions to, there's going to be people on the other side of that as well who want it.
Right.
And that you're fighting against. And they might be a bigger horde and a cohort. And then what happens? It just seems like such a waste of energy to fight technology. I can't think of a single technology that has broken out and that we've been able to shove back in the box. Can you guys?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I can't think of it.
CDs.
Well, we didn't shove it down. It worked for a while until it got supplanted.
Yeah, we moved to the next
else,
one.
but, yeah.
I mean, like you can look up, and I put this in my post on Facebook, but you can look up all the different businesses that were there to support the horse and buggy industry, right? Mm-hmm. From the people that shoed the horses' shoes, the buggy whip makers, the upholsterers for the seats that went in buggies, and I mean, just like tons of different services and businesses that were being put out. And there was a huge backlash against the automobile when they were like early on. You can look it up. There was like 9 fatalities within a year of people just getting run over by cars. And there was a huge backlash against cars. They're too dangerous. They put out, they put out smog. They're noisy. They're horrible. They're unreliable. We should just get rid of cars. I mean, like for like, I think at like a 10 or 20 year period, there was a huge push against cars.
Yeah. There's currently a push against cars too. Like, and honestly, I love seeing those posts. Like, this is our, people are posting like, here's my city that isn't car based, it's bicycle based or it's walking based. And I'm like, geez, that looks like a great place to live.
Right.
Like, so to that point, and this is where people are going to say we're contradicting, like maybe
now we're nervous about it.
Right. Maybe a good portion of your time and effort should be fighting this so that future generations can create more freely and more humanly. Right.
I know what the comments are going to be.
Dude, you shouldn't have said that, Jake. That was way too contradictory.
It's going to be, this time is different. This technology is different though. Yeah, but AI is different than all those other technologies.
Yeah.
That's what the comment will be.
But I
talk
tell you
to me
what,
in 10 or 20 years, if I'm still around.
I mean, I also just read the new Transformers comic by Daniel Warren Johnson, Mike Spicer. It is a beautiful work of art, even though it's Transformers, even though it's licensed property. It has got just the right kind of fan service in it. It's just the right amount of wild stuff that you wouldn't expect, but it makes total sense. Like Optimus Prime, I'll spoil one section of it. Fast forward 5 seconds if you don't want to hear this, but Optimus Prime loses his arm. And so he goes and yeah,
you just ruined it for me.
No, you guys aren't going to read it. Anyways. And so, he's got this, like, he's armless, and in this story, Megatron's dead or something. And so he needs a new arm quick. And so what does he do? He rips Megatron's arm off, sews it onto himself or stitches it onto himself. And the rest of the book, he's got Megatron's arm with him, right? That is like the coolest thing ever, right? And he's blasting people, Optimus Prime with Megatron's arm. So what I'm saying though is, Daniel Warren
What does this
Johnson,
relate to again?
No, just watch. Daniel Warren Johnson could have been super frustrated and could have spent his time like fighting against AI, but instead he sat down and he wrote the coolest Transformer book ever to exist. And I think that does a better service to the art community.
All right. So our takeaway before we move forward, our takeaway is make your thing first, and then put up a little fuss if you don't like something.
Yeah.
But don't let that be don't just be somebody who complains all the time.
I think the thing is don't offload, don't give up your creativity yet. Like, just because AI is a huge threat, and I've seen so many people like, I don't know if I should even get into art anymore. You know, if AI is going to take over everything, don't give up yet. Go make your stuff. Go work on it. Go make your thing. If you're not good at art yet, learn how to get good at it. Right. You know, practice. Because you're still going to want to get stuff from people. You're still going to want to get books.
Let me add one more thing to this rant, and then we got to get to the questions. So we're ranting way too long. We jumped up on this soapbox. Understand that different people have different needs from different things. Other people are different from you. And so if you are somebody who, I mean, there's some people who have, 35 followers on Instagram, and they just, when they heard all this stuff a couple of weeks ago, they're just like, nope, shut it down, move over to Kara. And they're like, everybody should do that. Well, I mean, that sounds great. If you have 25 or 30 followers, that's one thing. If you've built up tens of thousands, or even in some cases, hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, you would be insane to delete it just because a headline came out that said Instagram.
That's the other thing is like, I don't think we talked about this, did we? But when the three of us first, before we hit record, didn't we say last week that, like, I know I was saying that, like, yeah, you're going over on Kara, but all your followers aren't, and all of the normies, they're not going over there, right?
Not yet, anyways. Yeah.
And the people that are going to buy your stuff, are they going over there? Are art directors and editors going over there? I don't think so.
Not yet. I mean, if they do, then we change our stance. I mean, that's what I've responded to in the comments from last time.
If they're there, but like with me right now, I'm getting ready to. I'm going to be releasing this game. I'm going to release it on Instagram. That's where my followers are, and on
right. Facebook, I mean, Jake has 500,000 people or more following him. For him to shut down his Instagram, I think
half of those are AI robots, though. So,
yeah. Well, you're pro AI.
Nothing wrong with doing both of them. There's nothing wrong with doing both of them either.
But I want to clarify something too. Like, if I think Kara is because I made my account over there. I had an account already made last year when everybody left ArtStation to go to Kara. I tried to log in again. I couldn't get them to send me a password code, no matter how hard I tried. So I made a new account so I could follow and post stuff. I haven't yet, but haven't posted yet. But I was on there clicking around, looking at it. It's a great place for you to get feedback on your work, to give feedback, to be a part of a community, and to get more artist eyeballs on the stuff that you're doing. And so if you're looking for community like that, absolutely go there. If a lot of people are using Instagram to like sell artwork, or to kind of launch a career, or to get into, get art directors to notice them and whatnot. I imagine art directors will drift over to Kara too if they know a bunch of artists over there and start clicking around and checking things out. So it might be pretty smart to have your account over there. But I do agree with the analogy we gave last week, where it's an island and Instagram is, metropolis. You're still going to want to step foot in the metropolis from time to time and have your little shop set up over there as well, I think.
Oh.
I think we played ourselves out.
I read something in my Stoic book this morning that kind of has to do with this. And it says, a trained mind is better than any script, right? So this is from Epictetus, right? He's one of the, I don't even know if I pronounced that right. He's one of the Stoics. But essentially he says that so often people want to have a step-by-step script. Here's how you need to do everything. Here's how you need to do your life. Here's what you do next. Here's the next step. And that's super handy and it's super helpful when you have a mentor who's able to do that. But it says here that, and this totally has to do with this, instead of looking for instruction, a Stoic, or I think the type of creator you need to be, cultivate skills like creativity, independence, self-confidence, ingenuity, and the ability to problem solve. In this way, they are resilient instead of rigid. So if if you those 4 things, if you cultivate creativity, independence, self-confidence, ingenuity, and problem solving, it doesn't matter what happens, what's thrown at you, you're going to be able to figure out a solution to get around that and still succeed. And I think that's sort of the crux of our message is the world's going to keep changing. Things are going to keep shifting. You know, we could get hit by electromagnetic pulse, and then there is no internet and there is no AI, you know, but if you have art skills, you can still go pick up some charcoal, make a drawing, share it with, you know, the tribe around you, the tribe's people around you, and still probably thrive as an artist, right? That's an extreme example, but I'm saying take charge of your life and take some like personal responsibility and continue to grow and work on things. Okay, questions? Should we do that now?
Yeah, let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
Enough ranting.
Yeah. Let's help out Raj. Okay, 2 questions. Feel free to answer both. One of them is about school visits. I feel like we've gone into this. Was that on the podcast or was that on Children's Book Pro or self-publishing?
No, we did a big one on the podcast.
Okay.
We did it in Children's Book Pro too.
So we won't get into school visits, but we will get into this. With social media on the decline, I've seen people start talking about newsletter cross-promotion. Is that something any of you have done? And what are your thoughts on it and how it should be done? So essentially it's you start a newsletter, you own sort of this group of emails. You own your email list, right? So people have consented to give you their email and said, yes, please email me updates, right? Or email me something of value. Mm-hmm. And the point here is, how do you get people to join that email list? And one thing is, you know, if the 3 of us have an email list, at the end of mine, I say, by the way, go check out, if you like my stuff, you're going to want to check out Will's email list. Or if you like Will's email list, you're going to love Lee's email list, and sort of cross promoting everybody. And I think I haven't tried it. I think it works pretty well because ConvertKit, the email list service that I use, has set up an entire system for people to be able to find other email lists based on the email lists that they're already following. So it's like something inherent, like a part of that email service right now tells me that is like probably a good use of your time, or a good way to market your email list is hit up, 10 other people who have email lists, artists who have email lists, and just say, hey, let's do a little email list chain. Like, I'll point them to you, you point them to me, we'll point them to this guy, and kind of make a circle of people to see if we can get more people to sign up. I say it's worth a shot. What do you guys think?
I love that.
Yeah.
It might be cool to do like, I'm trying now. I'm brainstorming stuff. Like, what if you did a series of illustrations? 12 illustrations, and maybe they tell a story, or maybe they're a part of your tarot deck, or maybe, who knows what it is. Maybe it's a comic. But you say, illustration 1 is going to be posted here on my newsletter, but if you want to see illustration 2, it's going to be posted, on this guy's newsletter. Mm-hmm. So you need to subscribe to that so you can get that letter, mm-hmm. and you can see that stuff. And that might be a way to do it. Those better be really enticing illustrations though, because you might not want to just sign up for another newsletter just to see it. But if it's like, you got to find out what happens at the end of the story, that might be worth it, mm-hmm. And meanwhile they're posting their stuff in your newsletter as well.
I would say this too, though. Like, one, the premise of this question is, with social media on the decline, social media is changing, but like, people are on their phones all the time and they're checking their social media accounts. So people are on social media. I wouldn't necessarily describe it as a decline, but the thing I would say is, like, can you speak to all the people that follow you on social media? No. The algorithm lets you speak to a fraction of the people that have decided to, quote unquote, follow you. Right. Mm-hmm. But then the same with your email list. Like, what's your open rate on your email list?
On mine particularly?
Yeah.
50% open rate.
So that's really high, right?
Yeah.
But that means like you've done twice as much work and you're only going to get half the bang for the buck. And I'm not dissing on an email list. I'm just saying the reality is you can't speak to them either. And that's why Lee and I are also going to be doing Facebook marketing, where we're actually doing what the social media companies have kind of designed the system for, which is, they want to get paid. And so we're gonna try to figure out a way with our products to make our product costs low enough so that when someone does buy, it affords us the amount of money that we can buy a lot more Facebook with. And it's a game. The cool thing though, and I go back to this, if you're doing a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo, or if you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, once those people pledge and buy the thing you're making, if you follow up with them, you can reach a large portion of them for the second one, an even larger percentage for the third one, and so on. And that some of the people that are just crushing it are on their third, fourth, fifth, sixth Kickstarter, launching a line of products and basically speaking to their tribe that they've developed. That's where we are right now. That's where the conversation is. It's in feeding the audience that you've already fed and developing that and feeding them again and again and again, because feeding those guys is so much cheaper than finding new customers.
It's a marathon. I mean, it really is. It's not about the first thing. It's about continual building. It's always building.
Yeah. Yep. Next question. You guys ready for this?
Let's do it.
Stay-at-home dad or stay-at-home illustrator? What's my fate? This comes from Arthur. He says, hello, and thank you for a great podcast and interesting perspectives. I mostly agree with Lee. Sorry, Jake and Will.
I'm very interested in this question now. This guy seems smart.
Yeah. We'll let Lee answer it then, since he doesn't care what me and Will think.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
He says, I recently lost my job as an architect because of inflation and other issues in the building sector. So I thought that now is a great time to try and fulfill my dream of becoming a freelance illustrator with my own home office. My wife earns enough to support us, which gives me the opportunity and time to focus on building a portfolio and getting my work out there. The problem is I'm scared of failing at it and realizing 10 years later that I'm stuck in my studio, tinkering with my paintings with no real incentive to earn money. What is your opinion? Does my portfolio look like it's good enough to get me work? Kind regards, Arthur.
Well, I'm going to pull up his work right now, but to get it going before I even see the work, if you're 10 years in and you don't know what's going on, then there's something there needs to be a better
6 months in, maybe
better plan. Yeah. 10 years in, you will definitely have known, long ago what your fate was. And the real thing to always think about is you can change. Art is so weird. Other careers don't have this, where people think my art is me. And we've talked about it on the podcast before. It is not you. It's a product it's something that you're doing and you can change it. So don't forget that. Like if you go 6 months and nobody's responding to this portfolio that you have built, make a new portfolio that's different and then see how that one does. I mean, that's how businesses work. I mean, if you're talking about being a professional illustrator, you got to stop thinking of yourself as just an artist and think of yourself as a business. I know people are going to say in the comments, oh, he's a sellout and all that stuff, but
give our listeners some credit. I think we got a lot of more people nodding.
Oh, we do. I'm kidding. It's probably 95% positive and 5% negative. But anyway, my point is you can change your work without actually, being a sellout per se. I would never advocate somebody go do work that they don't like because they think that's going to be the path to more money. Because strangely enough, that doesn't work either. You can't be inauthentic in this career, I think. But it might mean changing, like, oh, do I need to use a different color palette, or do I need to pursue a different subject matter or something like that? Most of the time I can say, by the way, that the critiques that we've given where people need to work on stuff is not even about how people paint. It's about what people paint. Don't you guys agree?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. I think learning the craft, the like the hard skills of color theory and perspective and all that stuff. It's like the easy part. What to paint, what to focus on, what's appealing to art directors. That really is the hard part. But I look at this illustration right here. This is a top view of, looks like just a hodgepodge of, different kinds of animals and creatures all sitting down for a big, potluck. This is a cool illustration. Mm-hmm. This definitely perks my interest a little bit. And I would love to see what this book is about, what brought all these creatures together to sit at the same table. I love all the little details too. Like, this is the kind of illustration me as a kid would just eat up, because there's like a little tiny ladder at the corner of the table, and it goes up and you realize there's mice, eating the cheese at the corner of the table. You look at each one of these characters, some's eating fish, some of them's eating sushi and whatnot. There's a lot of fun here.
Yeah. I would say immediately, I mean, this is kind of an interesting thing that artists think about, but other people don't, like art directors and editors. You may, even though you work in watercolor sometimes and digital sometimes, you don't have to separate that on your website unless it is wildly different.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not. It's really similar.
You can't even tell the difference. And so that's the first thing I would say is, like, don't worry about how you made it. Nobody cares how you made it. If the styles were totally different, like I said, then that's a time to do that. But the work is pretty good. I think the digital work is more interesting than the watercolor for some reason, but it all has like an interesting kind of thing going. So, are we doing a portfolio review? What's the actual question there? Should I quit my job? I don't know.
Does my portfolio look like it's good enough to get me work?
So I think it's the wrong question.
Yeah.
And here's why is no surprise, but I mean, like, if you're in a situation where you've got enough money and your wife's working, why not just, and forgive me if I'm wrong about it, making this assumption, but when he said he's interested in doing freelance illustration, to me, that means I want to work for someone else. Why not work for yourself and make your own products and take them to market? Because the other reason for that, and the elephant in the room, is a lot of companies right now, publishing included, are adhering to DEI standards. And if you don't have the right book message, or if you don't have the right,
can you explain what that? I don't know what that is.
Diversity, equity, inclusion. If you don't have the right skin color, gender, then we're hearing more and more, and we have personal experiences where they're just not hiring certain people without getting political. I don't want to take this political, but I mean, like, it's the reality of what's happening right now. And I've been told by an editor that they have to follow DEI standards when they go into an acquisitions meeting. They have to justify each book that they're going to publish on how it furthers their DEI standards. And if it doesn't, they can't publish it. So that is a reality. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like you're in the perfect position to just make your own things and take them to market and see what the market thinks of what you're making.
I think though too, like like, just to go out and to self-publish and do all that is another skill set, like 100 more different skills you need to know, marketing and networking and how to source materials, how to source manufacturers, how to do distribution, and I enjoy all of that. So I don't mind doing it, but that might be a lot to take on at this stage in Arthur's career. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like this guy, he could go down that path and start working on, making his own book and finding the audience for it and kickstarting it or whatever, or just self-publishing it, getting on Facebook groups and marketing it there and whatnot. But I think, that's one path. I think the other path is dial in your portfolio to get a specific kind of publishing job. If it's obviously he's into children's books, and we don't know if, he's in Netherlands, he's in the UK, Sweden. Yeah.
In Malmo.
Swedish flag. He they might not have the same publishing standards going on over there, and he might not have to deal with DEI, or I don't know exactly what's going on with European publishing, but it's really freeing, I think, for a creator, especially like shifting from architecture where he's working for a firm and he's getting specific assignments to then focus on illustration, but getting a specific assignment. Like that's a nice transition, is saying, we need you to illustrate this book in this particular, in your style, and positioning yourself to be able to get that particular kind of job, I think might be like the best advice at this point for him. But with the mind, like if he does want to do self-publishing, or does want to, he does have that freedom, that runway, that financial runway to like take a risk and publish something that, publishers wouldn't do because it's so niche. He gets that option as well, but it doesn't hurt to like build up some credibility in publishing if he can.
Sorry, I'm just looking through his work. I think if somebody like this wants to get, I think his skill set is fine. His color balance is good. Painting skills is good. I think just more stories where you can see an actual narrative happening that is sequential. I mean, that's the one big thing about being a book illustrator, is that you're spanning multiple images of the same characters in a similar or same setting, right? And so that's what I'm not seeing. That's the only thing I'm not seeing from his portfolio that shows some kind of continuity or change of a character, through time, through space, and in terms of multiple images. So that's the only thing I would say. I think he's totally safe. If his wife's earning the money and he's this good already, yeah, go for it, man. I mean, there's no reason not to. There's no actual risk. So this is like the best case scenario. That's why I tried to. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think step one is to get he's got maybe 10 pieces on his website. Let's punch that up to 20 finished illustrations. Take out the ones that aren't quite as appealing as good. I'm not sure. There's a frog with boba and a hamburger sitting on a brick wall, which, is a fun illustration, but I don't know if that's his best work, right? Like I want to see stuff all at the level of that, that feast, that potluck image. So maybe year one is dial in the portfolio, try to crank out a really nice piece once a month, so at the end of the year, you got 12 really hot pieces.
Well, remember, he's got the ability to just chill at home. I mean, I would say it would be like, I'd go shoot for at least 3 per month. And then that way at the end of the year, you could dial it in. I love that character that he's got he's got these animals like racing off the roof. I don't totally understand that concept, but I love that little sun character in the front. I mean, it's normal animals that are anthropomorphized. And then for some reason, there's just a random sun character in there.
Yeah.
Let me give him a really quick critique on that table.
Yeah.
The feast. Go back to that one. Yeah. I actually think that image would look the best if the background were white. It was just because here's why. You've got all these middle tones in the characters and middle tones in the grass. And it's like middle on middle. I think it would be more interesting if it was just a solid white background, and you could have the soccer ball just sitting against white, and the
little hints of that they are in a field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say you sort of got that same problem. I think Will's kind of highlighting portfolio wide, something that needs to be addressed, which is an over reliance on middle value.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to that, the image of the house where the diving, if you barely blur your vision, that character diving completely disappears. It's a middle value against a middle value.
On a middle
That's
background.
something that can be easy to fix.
Gray on gray doesn't work. You need at least dark on gray or white on gray.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's portfolio wide. So I think that's something that, like, okay, you're going to spend your first year building just the best portfolio you've ever seen, and then start addressing those value issues.
Yeah. All right. Next question.
This one, they don't like Lee's answer, but they like me and Jake.
Right.
Now that is a fictional statement, because we know that's not possible. Don't make me go on a rant about you, Will.
Yeah. This is also kind of like, what, big career shift. What should I do? This comes from Raphael, and he says his subject line is, I might as well be doing Excel spreadsheets. Long story short, he is a concept artist for a video game company, but he hates the project they're working on.
He's grateful for his job. He's grateful for
his
the
job.
Great salary and all.
I have always asked people when we interview animators about this issue. So go ahead. I'll elaborate.
Yeah. So, grateful for the opportunity, grateful for the job, and he doesn't want to speak ill of the company, but he says, I believe the game we're creating lacks depth and appeal that I personally value. This misalignment between my interests and the project's objectives is affecting both my motivation and the quality of my work. While I've built a good reputation within the company, my enthusiasm has waned over time. All right, so this situation has led him to contemplate a significant decision, whether to leave the art field altogether and pursue a non-related 9-to-5 job. Despite my passion for art, I feel drained by the end of the day and struggled to find the energy to work on personal projects that could enhance my portfolio. Mm-hmm. As someone with a family support, I'm cautious about making any rash decisions. However, the prospect of continuing in a role that no longer fulfills me is becoming increasingly daunting. I've ruled out self-publishing as an alternative path. So, Will, that's not going to work. I know that's what you're going to suggest. As it doesn't align with my strengths. Despite countless nights I've spent wondering if I should enroll in Self-Publishing Pro when it launched. You missed out, man. It was a good one, but we are doing it again in August. So if anybody's been thinking about Self-Publishing Pro, we're going to launch it again in August. Could you offer guidance on whether transitioning out of the art field would be a wise decision for me? Is this just the normal kind of struggle that is actually expected at my current level in this career? He's got some art. He's got some great art, actually.
Here's how I know he's a real artist.
Yeah.
It's because his passion is being subverted. Right.
Right.
and this is the problem with artists from time immemorial, right? I mean, back when artists were making art for the church in Europe, I mean, they had to do what they were told to do or what was needed. And I can tell you this, I have worked on so many projects that I was jealous of people working outside, trimming trees or digging ditches or doing anything outside than doing art. And here's why. It's your emotional labor. Emotional labor is the hardest labor you'll ever do. It's harder than physical labor because you can't, in physical labor, you can zone out, right? You can daydream while you're slinging that shovel. Yeah. But when you're making art that you hate, you are in it. You're locked in. And the worst job I ever did was for Merck. And I have no problem saying that out loud. It sucked the life out of me for a month. I got paid the most I ever got paid, and I hated my life more than I ever hated it.
I love your idea of like, this is a problem artists have been dealing with, for 1,000 years or more. And I love the idea of like, some Renaissance painter who's like stuck having to do another Virgin Mary painting when all
dude,
they want to do is
no, a bigger one. Did you guys know Michelangelo wanted nothing to do with the Sistine Chapel? I'm not kidding. Google it if you don't believe me. I mean,
I believe you.
I'm just talking to our audience. Like, if you've never heard that, it's true. Like, you think of these guys just being divinely inspired all the time, and that's why the Sistine Chapel exists and stuff. No. That's a commercial project that was pushed upon him. He tried to pass it off to other painters, but they wanted him, and so you know, like you said,
all he wanted to do was like gladiator fan art. But he was stuck drawing painting Moses.
That's right. But yeah, so it's a age old problem of pros. But being in the entertainment industry, I feel like is the worst place for that, because you could be. I've always wondered, say you're a character designer or something like that, background painter or whatever for an animation studio. They get they green light some project. And so, for 4 or 5 years, you're going to be working on this project, and you look at the script and you're like, oh my God, that's super cheesy. Yeah. Now you're on though. What do you do?
I'll tell you what, like, I was in this guy's exact same position when I worked at Blue Sky. Mm-hmm. And the project that broke me was Rio, the one about the birds in Brazil. You look at the movie and it's like, oh, this is so fun. Mm-hmm. They're all like dancing and there's like beach balls bouncing and everything. It's all fun and games until for 4 months straight, you're stuck on the same scene, designing the same, rearranging plants in a scene because the shots keep changing.
And you're waking up every morning going, I'm supposed to really look forward to this. I have the art job. I got what everybody else wants.
Right. And I honestly was like, am I crazy wanting to quit Blue Sky, working on animated feature film? Am I crazy that all I want to do is like, I want to get out of here? And like, I would rather risk it on my own than do this. Luckily, what happened was university reached out and said, hey, we need we got to fill a professor position.
We need to screw you.
So I left and went and worked at a university because I was like, it was a sweet deal. It was like, we're going to pay you a fair wage. We're going to pay you. We're going to give you benefits, like health benefits, and you have to work 2 days out of the week, 3 days out of the week. So you get 2 days for yourself to work on your own projects. And I was like, deal, I'm out of here. So we moved cross country and did that. Little did I know, though, that once you're in that world, how many meetings are involved, how much administrative stuff is involved. Like those 2 extra days that you're supposed to like work on your own stuff are spent like grading assignments and coming up with new lectures and all that kind of stuff.
They do that finger of death card from Magic.
Right.
They suck your life energy.
So, but the coolest part about that whole thing though was really realizing that like I do have the ability to like take control of my career and of my work, and teaching the kids like in person was absolutely the best. I wish I could do that more often, like do the in-person one-on-one sort of teaching. But now we're really straying from what this guy should be doing. Essentially. Yeah.
The point is that once you decide to become a pro, the idealistic version of the job goes away. And that's really what you're talking about here. The idealized version is we're having fun always, and it's always enjoyable, and you're always motivated. And now is the real stuff. And I've used the analogy before on this podcast or other times we've been chatting about this sort of issue, but like a tennis player, if I just go, I've got a tennis course across the street from my house. If I just go play tennis with my son, it's super fun. The second I want to start getting a little bit better, it becomes a little bit more work. The second I want to start entering tournaments, it's a completely different thing. And then if I said, okay, I want to be a top 10 tennis player in the world, your relationship with tennis is totally different at that point. It's going to become an absolute job. You got to, it's not going to be fun. And that's how art is too. I mean, it works exactly like that. Some parts are always still fun, little bits of it, but other times you're just like, man, even when I'm doing children's books, I've run into the feeling this guy has. You know, you're halfway through it and you're like, is this any good? I don't know, you know.
Personally, I would, if I were in his situation right now I have the benefit of knowing how my life played out, but I would go one of two ways. Like he basically already laid it out. I would get out completely and do something totally different than art, or I would devise a plan to move away from that job into making the kind of art that I want to make. Because you can't, I mean, I couldn't imagine doing the life-sucking art for 10, 20, 30 more years. It just, if you're already here right now, and we don't know how old you are, well, let's say this person is in their 30s or 40s.
I
think they're in their 30s.
Yeah, I couldn't do it for another 25, 30 years. There's just no way, because it's going to make you more and more unhappy over time.
Mm-hmm. There's a watercolorist named Alex Powers. I had his book a long time ago. I don't even know if he's still a working artist right now, but he was amazing. And he has this book, and in his book, he gives a little bit of sort of life coaching stuff. And he said, at no time should you ever take an actual commercial art job if you want to enjoy art.
Right. It's true.
Yeah.
But man, working on your own project is so much fun.
He said the best case scenario is you have a job outside of art that pays all the bills. And so you don't need to, and then you come to art and with whatever you want to, whether it's a sketch in the evening, whether it's a painting, whether it's this subject matter or that, you know, he said that's the most fulfilling life as an artist. I tend to agree with that.
I think he's overlooking the fact that you are doing that when you're working on your own project. Sure, there's going to be things that you have to do on your own project that you don't necessarily want to do. Guess what? I hired an assistant to do those things.
Right.
Man, I love showing up to do the things, the projects that I'm working on, and it's where I want to be. Yeah.
So here's my series of advice that I would give them. I would essentially have three options, right? Suck it up and see your way through this project. Okay. And just know the project will come to an end someday, and they'll start a new project, and maybe you'll like that one better. Chances are, I think, looking at what this company that you're working for does, that you're probably going to get more of the same, you know, with this company. So I would set a goal that 6 months from now, you either have a new job at another doing concept art, doing the same concept art, but another studio that's more aligned with your interests, and start shifting, doing portfolio pieces that are more aligned with what you want to be doing to get that new job. Now, you say that you're tapped by the end of the day, tapped out, you don't have any more creative juice. So what I'm going to say is go to bed at 8 p.m. every night and wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and work on your art in the morning. You know, do whatever you got to do to wake up, do a bunch of squats and jumping jacks, you know, get a big cold glass of water or something, and get to work when you have creative energy. And then whatever's left over, give to your job that you hate, right?
And eventually they'll fire you because you're not giving them your best work. And
I was going to add to that, because I think Jake is right. But then while you're at work, the task becomes, how do you add some kind of little challenge, say, for yourself to make what you're doing at work interesting? Maybe the concept of the project's not interesting, but can you try to paint in a different way, or to draw in something that you're working on? You know what I mean? Just make it like, can you put a Megatron arm on everything you draw at work?
Right.
And
right. Yeah, one of my favorite things to do at Blue Sky was hide things in the drawing. So if you go and look at Rio, there's a box that I designed that falls off the truck at the very beginning of the movie. And I was supposed to just like put numbers on the box. So I put our anniversary date on it, and I put like our initials so that every time the family watches it, they could see like this little, memorial,
little Easter egg.
Yeah, to our marriage. I love doing stuff like that. And in my comics that I've done, graphic novels and whatnot, I'll hide my kids' names in the background or something. So yeah, Lee's right. Like, you got to figure out one little thing you can do each day that like makes you a little happy, makes you a little excited to like want to participate in this thing. That might help. All right. Is that sufficient? Is that good enough for a podcast episode?
That's pretty good. I'm gonna say, we always give an emoji for people if they made it this far into our incredibly dumb banter. Leave a little spore emoji, because I finally got COVID after 4
congratulations
years.
How did you avoid it this long?
I don't know. I thought I was actually, I had to eat some humble pie because I thought I was immune to it. So I was making fun to my close friends. I was always like, I'm immune. And now I get it. And I had to like, I got it. I'm not immune. So I don't know how I avoided it. I mean, I traveled and, I didn't do anything different and didn't get it. Even my son had it while we were on vacation, and me and my wife both didn't get it. So I don't know, but anyway, I have it right now, and
you look fine.
Feel okay. Taking
in about 10 minutes, he's going to crash though.
Go through waves. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Most of you guys have probably had it, but anyway, leave a little spore. If you
can I leave just one last thought?
Yeah,
that it kind of pertains to what we've been talking about today. I really feel like if you're a younger artist, you should be designing, or at least having a goal in mind to get to a place where you're doing exactly the kind of work that you want to do. So in the beginning, I'll tell you this, as a 58-year-old, I don't have anywhere near the amount of energy I used to have, right? for art. Like I in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, I grinded. There were days or weeks and months where I worked 6 days a week, sometimes 7 if I was on a big project, literally from the time I woke up until the time I went to bed at night. There were a lot of
can I pause you right there?
Yeah.
How did you keep your mind like focused? Because that's the thing that I find the hardest is my mind wanders, and pretty soon I need to check something and walk away from the desk.
I mean, part of it was the wolves. I had 3 kids and a wife, and part of it was the wolves, but I don't know. I just was hungry, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could make better work than I was currently making. And I always had that as a driving thing, was I know I can do better. I know I can do better. I know I can do better. And now I'm at the point where I don't feel like my art is getting any better. Could it? Sure. I could definitely learn a lot more. I'm content with the level of art that I'm putting out. I can do what I want. I can say what I want. My vision of the art matches what I'm able to do almost always. And I love working on the projects that I'm working on, but I have other things that I want to do. And a big one is pickleball, and another one is my wife and I are riding we have these trikes that we're riding, and we want to ride those more. I just have other recreational things that I want to do. And I guess my message is, if you can get to a point where you're making what you want and you're making a good enough living, you'll have a much better time when that energy starts to fade. And that's why I look at Raphael here, whose artwork is amazing, by the way. You didn't share it, right? Did he not?
No, I didn't. But
I mean, it's really, really, really good. He deserves to be hired at a game company.
Yeah, go to RaphaelBerthoud.com.
I can't imagine being in this mental space 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Part of my goal always was to get to the kind of work that I really wanted to be doing and making little shifts and little moves along the way. And I always seem to just stay right ahead of. If I had to do it over again and I had to do the worst work, the worst jobs, I would do something else. If in some kind of alternate universe, if I was condemned to go back and do the worst work and be stuck there forever, I would be like, nope, I'd rather do something else. Because art, the reason we chose this was to have fun, to have fulfillment, right?
I think that's the initial reason. And then it kind of shifts over time. I think for me, it's shifted to, I'd love to have fun, but I also love solving a problem for somebody, right? So, if I take on a graphic novel project like I'm doing right now, this publisher needs a really cool looking graphic novel that this author has written. And I'm like, I'm here. I'm for you. I'm gonna solve that problem for you.
Well, and solving problems is part of the fun. I'm not saying that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, exactly. Like, but solving the kind of problems that you want to solve, not saying something that you think is stupid or having to illustrate something that you don't agree with. I have a friend who was working at EA, and everything they started doing was about, because they were using the freemium model. He was working on the mobile games. And every meeting he got sucked into was, how do we addict our customers more? And he hated the people that he was working with. Not all of them, but he hated the people that were basically trying to ruin people's lives, is how he saw it. It's like, what can we put in our game that will make them more and more addicted?
That would be hard.
And he finally left, and now he writes novels.
Well, I tell you, I mean, if your whole life is built around somebody else's product, and I mean, you're kind of ripe for the product being something that sort of sabotages you if you don't like the project. And so I guess looking at my career back on it, like I got lucky to do the art fairs, because there's no commercial part of doing art fairs where you're selling original paintings and prints. Every bit of that was just stuff like, hey, what do I want to paint that I enjoy, that I hope somebody else will enjoy too? And so I always had my feet kind of in both worlds, commercial world, and then making my own stuff. You can't just be in commercial stuff. I mean,
right.
I feel like my whole thing is like, regardless of what I'm doing to make money, I always have a personal project.
Right.
And for example, one of those personal projects was Missile Mouse, and it turned into a two book graphic novel deal with Scholastic, right? But another personal project was, like this thing called a Balderbin, Lord Balderbin and the Infinicorn of Destiny, right? It was just this little side comic I was drawing. Nothing ever came of it. I never finished it really. But when I was working on it, that like got me excited, and it honed my skills even more so that the next project was even better than that one, right? Yeah, that's good. I keep thinking like, what's going to be the criticism like of this episode? Like, Jake's advocating for artists to work on their own work, like to make something and put something cool in the world.
No, there'll be a negative spin there. We're being fussy. I'm being fussy only because I have COVID, so I'm grumpy.
Yeah.
Why are you guys grumpy?
I'm feeding off your grumpiness. All right, let's wrap it up, shall we, gentlemen?
Let's do it.
What was the emoji they need to post? A spore emoji?
A little spore. Okay,
that's good. That's good. All right. 3-Point Perspective is made possible by SVSLearn, where Becoming a Great Illustrator starts. We've got Self-Publishing Pro coming up here in the next couple months. So if you want to be notified of that, get on the Self-Publishing Pro notification email list by going to selfpublishingpro.com. You definitely not going to want to miss that if you have any desire to self-publish and sort of own the thing that you're working on, but also you just want step-by-step, here's how you do it. Here's how you do it from 3 people who have been doing it for 20 years. And those 3 people are your hosts for this episode: Will Terry, Lee White, and Jake Parker. You can follow us on Instagram if you want. You can follow me on Kara. It's at Mr. Jake Parker. What's yours, Lee?
Instagram at Lee Whiteillo.
No, at Kara app.
Oh, also at Lee Whiteillo.
Okay, Lee Whiteillo.
Oh, by the way, let me add that as a little pro tip for everybody. If you're moving over to Kara or whatever platforms come along, use the same name. Don't be jumping all in and changing all that stuff. Branding is branding. I mean, you don't see Nike changing their name because they're advertising somewhere new. So keep their name the same.
Podcast produced by Daniel Tu. Special thanks to our keeper of the curriculum, Austin Shirtliff, Shownotes Wrangler, Lily Howell, Chief Operations Officer, Lisa Fott, Illustrator, Annalise Black. Now, go draw something.